In this video, we're going to deconstruct what it really means to optimize your outdoor clothing system. An optimized clothing system is one that is as simple, versatile, and effective as it could possibly be. For my clothing system, it could be negative 30 degrees out, it could be 100 degrees out. I could be high up in the mountains or out at sea, I could be in the desert or in the jungle. I use the same exact clothing system for every single one of my trips. That system consists of just 9 core pieces and 4 auxiliary pieces. We'll start off with the shirt. A good do-it-all shirt system should accomplish 8 things. It should have the ability to trap air and retain body heat when needed. It should be able to block the wind. It should be able to efficiently vent body heat. It should be breathable, meaning it should allow perspiration in the form of water vapor to pass through it. It should dry quickly, ideally within a matter of minutes in the sun. It should be mosquito bite proof. It should be durable enough to withstand bushwhacking through rough environments, and it should protect your skin from the sun. In order to accomplish these 8 things, most hikers use some kind of a combination of a t-shirt, a wind shirt, a sun shirt, and some type of a hiking shirt. Using different combinations of these 4 pieces is one way to meet your 8 requirements, but I personally like to just use one shirt to fulfill my needs. I like to use a hooded shirt with a full or 3/4 length zipper made with a thin, breathable nylon fabric. My favorite shirt fabric is Pertex Quantum Air. The requirements for a pair of do-it-all hiking pants are basically the same as the requirements for your shirt system, with just 2 small differences. They need to be held to a higher standard for durability, and the ability to vent your pants is nice, but not critical. For the past few years, my main hiking pants have been the Ex Officio Sandfly pants, which are made with a thin, durable nylon fabric. Moving on, the next core piece of clothing is a fleece. Although a fleece can be used as a stationary layer, the main purpose of a fleece is to provide insulation as an active layer. In order for a fleece to be effective as an active layer, it needs to do 3 things. It needs to insulate you, obviously. It needs to dry quickly since it'll be exposed to moisture from both the environment and the wearer. And it needs to be breathable in order to let perspiration pass through it. In order to meet these needs, there are 2 main qualities that we should look for in a fleece. An ideal fleece is made with fibers that won't absorb a lot of moisture so that it'll retain its insulative value and dry quickly. Also, an ideal fleece should be airy and lofty, meaning that it's constructed in such a way that it traps a lot of air within its fabric. An airy fleece will be warmer than a thinner, denser fleece. It'll dry faster and it'll be more breathable. When you look at your fleece selection through such a critical lens, the obvious choice is to use a fleece made with Polartec Alpha Direct fabric. To describe this fabric as simply as possible, it's basically a bunch of super fine polyester hair-like fibers that are attached to a polyester mesh. In windy conditions, your fleece will be most effective when worn underneath a ventable wind-blocking layer, like your shirt, or even better, your shell jacket. Shell jackets are usually an underutilized piece of clothing. A shell jacket that's used effectively should accomplish 4 things. Ideally, it should be able to completely block the wind. It should be able to trap air in order to retain body heat. It should be able to effectively vent body heat and perspiration. And obviously, it should block out the elements and keep you dry. Waterproof, breathable rain jackets are amazing when they work. Maybe I just haven't found the one yet, but I've tried all these, which are some of the most popular options, and none of them have been waterproof after prolonged use, even with continuous DWR treatments. For this reason, I prefer to use waterproof shell jackets over waterproof breathable ones because I don't think it's ever acceptable for a rain jacket to wet out. Waterproof jackets are also more wind resistant than waterproof breathable jackets, so they'll provide you with more insulation in high winds. In my opinion, the perfect shell jacket is very loose fitting to provide sufficient ventilation and allow ease for layering, is as simple as it could be, and does not have any unnecessary features that will add weight, leak, or be susceptible to failure, is made with waterproof fabric to block wind and keep out moisture, and is able to vent properly through the cuffs, waist, and front zipper. To go with your shell jacket, we also need some shell pants. Your shell pants share all of the requirements that your shell jacket has, but there are some important differences. It's harder to vent your shell pants. It's harder to take your shell pants on and off. In cold weather, your shell pants might be even more important as an insulating piece than your shell jacket is. Your shell pants may be exposed to more external moisture from wet vegetation, and you have to take into account that if you're going to be wading through water, your legs and next to skin pants are going to be wet underneath your shell pants. For these reasons, I prefer to sacrifice weather resistance for breathability and use waterproof breathable shell pants instead of waterproof ones. I personally really like the feel of slim shell pants, but I'm a bit of a nut for that. I definitely recommend using loose fitting shell pants to maximize ventilation. Your shirt, fleece, and shell should provide you with sufficient insulation for most 3-season conditions, but throwing a puffy into the mix becomes useful when you're either hiking in extremely cold weather or if you spend spend a lot of time stationary, like if you take a lot of breaks or spend a lot of time hanging out in camp. A puffy jacket really only has one requirement. It needs to insulate you as effectively and efficiently as possible. Usually, to achieve that high level of efficiency with your puffy, you're going to be sacrificing breathability for warmth. The two main categories for insulation used in puffy jackets are down and synthetic. Down is going to be warmer for its weight, generally warmer for its loft, more durable and more compressible, but synthetic insulation is cheaper, more moisture resistant, dries quicker, and is less finicky to use. Generally, synthetic insulation is better for wet environments and down is better for drier environments, but both types of insulation can be used effectively in any type of environment. Although the shell layers of a puffy do provide a significant amount of insulation by trapping air, the bulk of a puffy's insulative value comes from the insulation itself. The technicalities of how an insulation insulates is beyond the scope of this video, but the main factor to consider when judging a puffy's insulative value is its loft, how thick it is. To way oversimplify things, what you really need to know is loft equals warmth. I like a super high loft puffy because A, I'm a wimp, and B, a high loft puffy gives you a much greater warmth to weight ratio. You see, most of the weight of most puffies is just in their shells. So when you increase the loft of a puffy by adding insulation, you're adding a significant amount of insulative value without a big weight penalty. For a serious hiking trip, depending on environmental conditions, I generally like to bring a puffy when the temperature is going to be below 10 to 25 degrees. In negative temperatures or in high winds, I like to have a hood with a fur ruff on my puffy, and sometimes I like to wear a buff or a balaclava. Next, moving on to your glove system. An ideal glove system should accomplish 7 to 9 things. It should protect your hands from bugs, it should keep your hands warm, it should block the wind, it should keep your hands dry, it should be able to dry quickly, it should be durable, and it should allow you to maintain your dexterity. If you need it, it should also protect your hands from the sun and prevent blisters from using trekking poles. I found that using a 3-glove system works best for 3-season conditions. A pair of sun gloves, a pair of liner gloves, and a pair of shell gloves. The sun gloves are for sun and bug protection. The material for these doesn't really matter too much, they just need to be able to dry quickly. The liner gloves are for cold weather hiking. Ideally, these should be extremely breathable and they should be able to dry quickly. Wool and fleece are the most common and probably the best materials for these. Wool is going to be warmer, but fleece dries faster and is usually more durable. Shell gloves are the gloves that I take on pretty much every trip. They block the wind, block out moisture, and provide insulation. I don't know of a shell glove that even compares to the Showa Temerus gloves. These are the 282s with the liners cut out. They're lightweight, durable, they don't hinder your dexterity, they're just bomb-proof. Next up is a hat, which is necessary to block the sun and block rain. A hat is not a complex thing. The only important requirement for a hat is it needs to dry fast. I usually like to wear a sun hat for sun protection, but if I'm gonna be in a wet, cloudy environment, I like a baseball cap. For the last 3 items, I'm not gonna go into detail because they're really more trip specific and they're more dependent on personal preference. So I'll just go over my favorite options. So for socks, I like to use either the full cushion Darn Tough socks or Injinji hiker socks. For me, using either one or both of those socks work well in most conditions. For trail runners, my favorite trail runner is the La Sportiva Akiras because they're super durable, they have a relatively stiff sole, and they just do really well off trail. And they're just comfortable for me personally. The cherry on top to complete the whole ensemble and have a gear system that you could use for almost any trip is a pair of specialized boots. That could be mountaineering boots, ski boots, snow boots, whatever your more extreme trips call for.